use the machine in that area. Well, one of my colleagues, I think in a zeal to help me with this, provided me with the information that strip clubs are where you find the highest convenience fees. This was news to me. Let me... Ooh. I knew I shouldn't have said anything. When we look at the market today, we do not expect to see any significant change in this into the future. This is a mature market now. We do not expect to see ABMs gravitating back into retail stores at any point in the future, as far as we can tell. So under those circumstances, essentially, we have a neutral position on the question of convenience fees. We think that's it's not something that really affects our members or their business models or their operations in any significant way. We would observe, as I think the previous panel did, that as we look at the economics of this, and as a business that has gone into it and left it, that if you put some constraints on fees, you will see fewer ABMs offered to the public. I think that's just an outcome of what we've looked at from our experiences as people who have offered it in the past. Let me take just a last minute to address the whole issue of the wider issue of electronic payments. We're delighted that this committee has cast the debate in that wider framework. We believe Canada has a good payment system, but our members are increasingly unhappy with the cost and the quality of the service they're receiving in some areas of the payment system. And they know ultimately it is the consumer who pays those costs, whether it's directly in the fee or whether it's hidden as a cost of doing business for the operations that have to use the payment system. As well, we're seeing that the payment system is evolving and changing rapidly. There are new technology, new players, new services. All of this is happening very quickly, and yet it's taking place without any public oversight or without any public consultation on that process. And we're a little surprised, frankly, that Canada has been so passive in this area in contrast to what we've seen in other countries. We've seen other countries act. We've seen other countries really look at their payment systems in a very careful way. In conclusion, then, my principal recommendation to the committee is that we believe Canada really needs a thorough review of the payment system with all the stakeholders at the table and a really thorough examination of the various costs and benefits to all the players. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all for your presentations. We'll move immediately to questions. Given the time, they will be 4-minute rounds. Mr. McCallum.
No, Mr. McKay.
No. Mr. McKay.
I'll go
so now it's 8 minutes, is it? Thank you. I wanted to just focus with Mr. Uso and just understand this system that you are no longer able to provide. So I'm a consumer, and you have Visa or MasterCard or American Express or whatever as a customer. I want to pay my bill on time. So what I don't understand is how you inform Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever, that my bill is paid on time and the banks can't. How do you do it? Do you do it by way of electronic coding, or does my bank account in effect notify you, and you in turn tell Visa that McKay paid? Is that how it works? I want to know how it works step by step.
The way it works step by step at a high level is we act on behalf of the client or the consumer when they go and make the payment. So we act as their temporary agent to sign on to their online banking account and actually fill in all the data, those 17 steps that most people can't do anyway. And we fill it all in, and then we execute the payment and get a confirmation number right there from the bank. We take that confirmation number, we provide it to the biller and say that person has made the payment at their bank account today. You may take 3, 4, 5 days to get settled, but you've got real-time confirmation that that money has come out of the consumer's bank account.
You don't actually transfer money.
No.
All you're doing is telling the creditor that McKay paid.
Yes.
And that's it. And how do you get paid for doing that?
We charge the merchant or online biller a percentage fee depending on whether it's a per transaction fee or if it's a discount rate or whatever fee. It depends on the category.
Now, Mr. Wolford, it seems to me that a retailer would be very interested in knowing well in advance more in advance than you presently know that an account has been paid. Is that fair? Is that an attractive idea to you?
It is, but Mr. McKay, as signatories to the debit card code of conduct, we're really concerned that this involves the customer giving away their PIN. That's an open key to someone's bank account. Yeah. And we think the protection of the financial affairs and the financial security of Canadians is paramount. So even though our members might like to have that assurance in advance, I think we'd be very concerned that this would compromise the security of the debit card system.
And what's your response to that, Mr. Uzo?
This is the typical response from a bank once the client is talking to the bank.
He's speaking as a retailer.
I understand, but what happens if you actually look at what's going on in the internet? There's a new technology coming on that you might hear. It's called Web 2.0. And really this technology is about giving clients essential access. So, for example, Royal Bank's invested in Cash Edge to the tunes of $5 million. And they actually take user IDs and passwords and store them in their system. And then this way they can affect going into other banks. For example, Scotia does not like Royal Bank doing this either, but Royal Bank does it all day long. You can get your consolidation of your CIBC account, your TD account, your Bank of Nova Scotia account, all in your Royal Bank account access. And oh, by the way, they're introducing money transfer using that service too.
I'm not sure I understood that.
Well, the banks are doing what we've done. The banks are doing what we've done with their own service called Cash Edge and Yodel E. They're doing the same thing we're doing at a more extreme level by storing it.
Could I just add one?
Sorry, gentlemen. No, we'll have to move on, but work it into your next response, okay? Nous continuons avec Mr. Saint-Cyr.
Continue with Mr. Saint-Cyr. Well, precisely that. I'd like to follow up on that. What you're saying is that there are already banks that ask for the passwords from their competitors to integrate all our accounts in their website, in their computer. Is that what I'm to understand here?
Doing this as well, and you don't understand, or?
No.
I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. The end of the last statement you made. You said that there are already banks that do what you do, and to do this, let's say I'm a client of the Royal Bank, it's what you were referring to, and I want access to my national bank account. I have to give the Royal Bank my password or something to give them access to the data, right?
D'accord. Donc, vous, ce que vous faites, c'est exactement...
Okay, so what you're doing is exactly the same thing. You conduct the transaction instead of the user, and the only difference is your customers trust you when you say, yes, the transaction was conducted, and they trust you. Whereas if I call Bell or anybody and say, yes, I paid, they can't necessarily trust me. That's the only difference.
The same as when a parent gives their child the debit card and says, here, I don't have time to go to the bank machine or pay for that. Here, give you the credit card. Here's the PIN. Nobody stops them from doing that, right? And that's the same thing we are doing here. It's agency. We're acting on behalf of the consumer. If the consumer could do this effectively and quickly through the bank, then we wouldn't be here.
Okay. Donc, maintenant...
Okay. Now, what prevents you... I'm still trying to understand this mechanism here. It's quite complex. What prevents you, with these new measures, to continue to do that? Where's the blockage here? Where's the impasse? What are the banks doing to know that the internet transaction is done by you rather than being done simply by the client, the consumer himself?
So GPay, if TELUS or Fido or any of those companies wanted to come, the discussion goes to the point where they talk to the bank, and then we get the same answer as we got from Peter or Mr. Wolford. It's that simple. That's what we get all the time, back and forth. Does that answer your question?
Well, in other words, what you're saying